Life imprisonment is a big deal. When convicts hear that they have been sentenced to prison for their whole lives, it suddenly dawns upon them how their life is about to end, and they end up reacting in the craziest ways possible. So here we have the stories of 5 insane convicts reacting to life sentences. Receiving a life sentence often incites rage. Do you still stand to lose much at that point? Actually, no. So people behave insanely at that moment. On number 5, we have Danta Wright, who smiled during the whole process. Impact statements are often read by the families and loved ones of victims during murder trials. In the case of Danta Wright, the family of slain 18-year-old Jordan Klee was sharing their feelings while the accused killer smiled and had to restrain himself from laughing during his sentencing hearing. Just imagine the heights of apathy. After the impact hearing, Wright addressed the court and told his family he'd be home soon. On the contrary, he was sentenced to 25 to 50 years for the crime. On number 4, we have Brice Rhodes, who spit, swore, and yelled through his trial. Brice Rhodes was a combative, erratic, and perplexing defendant when he went on trial for a triple homicide. One would anticipate Rhodes to be upset if he was given the choice between life in prison or the death penalty for his crimes, but he wasn't upset in the least. Rhodes made outbursts during the court proceedings. He charged that the judge belonged to the KKK. Rhodes spat on a lawyer at one point. He dismissed attorneys, made illogical statements, and grinned mockingly at the families of his victims. The families of his victims insisted that the competency test was just a time-wasting tactic, despite the lawyer's claims to the contrary. He couldn't handle it and totally lost his calm. On number 3, we have Michael Marin, who killed himself and ended it all. Michael Marin had experienced a severe decline and was unable to make his mortgage payments. His charity raffle plan to sell off his mansion fell through. His next strategy was to set it ablaze to collect insurance money. He soon discovered that insurance fraud and arson were serious crimes after being apprehended and tried. He was facing a minimum sentence of 7 years and a maximum of 21 years. That was a life sentence for a man who was 53 years old. Marin could be seen in court lifting his hands to his face after the judge found him guilty. Nobody realized that he wasn't simply reacting in despair at the time. He took a drink, then put a cyanide capsule in his mouth. Shortly after that, he started convulsing, and everyone saw him die. On number 2, we have Ted Kaczynski, who listed his 8 life sentences as awards. For his time as a domestic terrorist, who used explosives he sent through the mail to cause 3 fatalities and nearly 24 injuries, Ted Kaczynski, aka the Unabomber, received 8 life sentences. It's shocking how a former mathematics professor could perpetrate such crime. Beginning in the late 1970s, the Unabomber bombing campaign resulted in 3 fatalities and 23 injuries before Kaczynski was apprehended in 1996 after an extensive nationwide manhunt headed by the FBI. The FBI's longest and most expensive manhunt came to an end when he was apprehended. Prior to his 50-year class reunion in 2012, he decided to list his 8 life sentences as awards with the Harvard Alumni Association. Unfortunately, after publishing it, the group had to issue an apology. On number 1, we have Zarek McCoy, who told the judge, "Suck your mom." Receiving a life sentence will incite rage. Do you still stand to lose much at that point? So if you have the court's attention, you may as well speak your mind, which is what Zarek McCoy did. On March 18, Zarek McCoy, 23, received a sentence at Croydon Crown Court for GBH and gun possession with the intent to endanger life. On July 6, 2013, at around 3 a.m., McCoy and another man broke into the house and shot a 20-year-old lady and her 19-year-old boyfriend before escaping. Despite shooting a couple 16 times during the attack, both miraculously survived, and McCoy was found guilty. Even though he was found not guilty of attempted murder, McCoy was given a life sentence for the crime of causing great bodily harm. He had no choice, the judge claimed. For his part, McCoy told the judge to "suck your mum, rude boy," before being led out of the room. Well, different people have different reactions. It sure is true with criminals too. But as they say, don't do the crime if you can't do time. Guess it doesn't hit them before it's real.